Hello, so today we are going to be talking about one of the ancient civilizations, and that is ancient Greece. So, ancient Greece started out as a civilization or empire thousands of years ago around at the Mediterranean area and the Mediterranean Sea. They had two main ruling city-states, which were Athens and Sparta, but they had hundreds of city-states that made up the empire as a whole, that each had their own cities that they lived in. They had the people that lived there and the different armies and soldiers in each of the city-states. In ancient Greece, there's a lot of things that we think about when we think of ancient Greece, and one of the most popular things is mythology. So ancient Greeks believed in gods and goddesses and lots of magical creatures. So they built lots of different temples to honor these gods and goddesses. And now all of these gods and goddesses are known to us in mythology. There's many stories written about them and their creation and their interaction with the mortals in Greece. So what is really cool about ancient Greece is a lot of the things that they created have been left for us now. So a lot of their legacies have maintained thousands and thousands of years later. For example, the idea of true democracy comes from ancient Greece, and that is basically where people get to be part of the government and vote. The philosophy that we study and that philosophers study came from ancient Greek people like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. They are like the founding fathers of philosophy, and if you're a philosopher, you're probably referencing them quite a bit. Theater that we know now comes very much from theater in ancient Greece. The idea of comedy, so that's having humor and being funny in shows, and tragedy, sadness and death, that also comes from ancient Greek theater, and we obviously still do that. Architecture also comes a lot from their styles. If you've ever seen columns, so for example, on different state and government buildings like the Supreme Court and the Capitol, a lot of those styles come from ancient Greece, and were also later influencing the ancient Romans a little bit after that. Science and technology and math, they had a huge part in that. The Pythagorean theorem, the Hippocratic oath that doctors use when they treat patients, lots of different things in medicine, astronomy, urban planning, plumbing, so many different things. Sports, huge one. The Olympics, they came from ancient Greeks. So the very first Olympics was in 776 BC in Olympia, which was almost 3,000 years ago, and the only event that they had was just running. But the next one, they added on chariot racing, boxing, pentathlon, and it was held every 4 years, and then it stopped for a while, and then it changed into the Olympics that we know today. But that's where we got its roots. Other things that we got from them, but there's still so many. The wheelbarrow came from ancient Greeks, odometer, and water mills to grind grain. What are some fun facts about ancient Greece? Well, meat was hugely valued in their culture. Meat was definitely on the table for a lot of their meals, especially during war and for war heroes, and fish because they were sailors and they lived near the sea. However, a lot of ancient Greeks were strict vegetarians, and they really valued having vegetables and bread and olive oil as part of their regular meals. Another really fun fact is they invented the yo-yo. It looked a little bit different than the yo-yo we know now, but that is the second oldest toy after the doll that has ever existed, and that was created by the Greeks. Something else that is really fun is the marathon. Anyone thought about where the marathon comes from? Well, Thucydides, who was a Greek war hero, ran 150 miles from Marathon to Sparta, so those are two places, to get help against the Persians in the war. When they had won the war, he wanted to run from Marathon to Athens to announce the victory, and it was about 25 miles. And if you know, the marathon is a little over 26 miles. So it came from that victorious run. It didn't come for another couple hundreds of years, but when we were thinking of the Olympics and wanting to have the historical events, they thought of this great run that was about the length of what we now know as a marathon, literally from the town of Marathon to Athens that Theodippides ran. So why do we need to learn about ancient Greece? Well, they're a huge part of our history that have influenced our present day life. So many of the things that they invented, practices that they did, are things that we do today. If that's not clear just from a basic level of what I explained to you, there's so many more things that they've invented that we are using every single day, and we don't even realize it, that ancient Greeks were using this thousands of years ago. So how can we take this a step further? Well, there's two great activities that you can do at home. The first one is to create your own myth. Now, as I mentioned before, mythology was a huge part of Greek culture. Gods and goddesses were the pinnacle of their day. Praying, temples, art, everything, creation story came from the gods and goddesses that they worshipped. And a lot of the myths were very fascinating. You can find them anywhere. About heroes, gods saving the day, overcoming a problem of some sort. There's lots of animals involved, and you can write your own. Make sure that you have some sort of hero or main character, a conflict or a problem, and an ending, a resolution. The second thing that you may want to do is to make your own Greek vase. Well, they were a huge part of Grecian art. They could be made in any shape or size and were used for a variety of things, storing food, decoration, lots of uses. But one thing that they all had in common is that they were all decorated in a unique way using Grecian pictorial art around the outside of the vase. And this often told stories. It may tell stories of daily life, what you've been doing, what your job is, but it also frequently told stories of war heroes, of gods, of great successes. So if you have any paper bags, cardboard, or even just paper that you're not using, cut it out into a shape of a vase and make your own art around it to tell the story of something. Maybe it's a story about yourself, maybe it's a story about someone in your family, or maybe you just want to describe something that happens every day that you really cherish.